is the malacha of dash. So another example of the malacha of dash is milking a animal, milking a cow, milking a goat. That is the malacha of dash because you're extracting the milk from what's inside. It's an animal, it's meat, it's food. You could shecht it, you can eat it, or whatever. And there's milk inside. So it's two separate items. You're extracting the milk from inside. So you can't milk a cow on Shabbos and Yom Tov. So what do you do if you need to, right? Cows need to be milked. Otherwise they're in pain. So what you do is you get a non-Jew to do it. Now, when you're getting a non-Jew to do it, the way to do it is not the regular way, which is just you speak to him and you ask him to do it and whatever, the usual, the regular thing. You ask him to do it for you. No. You have to do it in a way where the non-Jew is doing it for himself. Meaning, it can't be that you ask him a favor, he's doing it for you, and he's doing it for you, and now you have milk, and that's it. No. It has to be that the non-Jew is doing it for himself. Meaning, you're asking the non-Jew to do it, and the non-Jew is allowed to keep the milk. Because we're trying to minimize the severity of the transgression of telling a non-Jew to do work on Shabbos. Because the prime prohibition of telling a non-Jew to do work on Shabbos is the idea of shlichus, meaning there's this concept of a shliach, that when you have someone do something for you, it's like you're doing it yourself. So when you're asking a non-Jew to do work for you on Shabbos, rabbinically, it's as if you're doing it yourself, in a sense. So that's if the non-Jew is doing it for you. The non-Jew is doing it for himself, then it's not totally permitted in every situation, but it brings down the severity of the transgression. And, well, so what? If it brings down severity of transgression, that means allowed, if it's still prohibited. The point is, our sages are allowing it because animals in distress, but we're trying to minimize the severity of the transgression. So instead of the non-Jew doing it for you, for your sake, so then you have the idea of shlichus, that it's like, it's in a sense, rabbinically, it's like you're doing it yourself because he's doing it for you. What you're accomplishing now is the non-Jew is doing it for himself because you ask him to milk the cow and you're telling him that he could keep the milk. Now, our sages weren't so strict in this, and they said that you could buy back the milk from the non-Jew, even though it's not the full price, even though it's like a fraction of the price. It doesn't matter, being that it does belong to the non-Jew. The non-Jew is willing to sell you the milk that's, let's say, worth $100, and sell it to you for $10. It doesn't matter. After Shabbos, talking about. It's okay. You're paying him whatever the price is, and it's fine. If you have workers that are hired, that they're always milking the cows for you, then there's no problem because they're doing it, they're getting paid for it. They're getting paid for not for the day, they're getting paid for the whole year whenever they need to milk the cow. So therefore it's not shlichus because they're not getting paid per day, they're getting paid for the whole year, and they have the responsibility of doing the job. So then that's going to be totally okay, and then you don't have to give them the milk. Then the milk is yours. Is this clear? Mm-hmm. Now, you're not allowed to drink the milk on Shabbos, regardless. That's even if a non-Jew, nothing to do because you told him to do it for you on Shabbos. Even if a non-Jew milks his own cow on Shabbos, let's say you were there, so it's Chol Yisrael, right? There's no issue at all. The non-Jew is milking his cow for himself, and you're there. It's Chol Yisrael. You can't drink milk that was milked on Shabbos. That was prohibited by our sages because they were concerned that if you're allowed to drink milk that was milk on Shabbos, this might lead to what? You might milk it yourself. If you're allowed to drink milk that was milked on Shabbos, now you're not allowed to milk on Shabbos, but at least if I milk it, I'll be able to drink it. He said you can't even drink it, so this tightens the person. There's no reason why he should. There's no motivation to milk it. It's like sometimes a person feels, okay, it's prohibited, but it's worth the crime. I did repression, okay, but at least I'll be able to get something. Now even after you milked it, also there's another prohibition. Now you're not allowed to drink it. So he said you can't drink it on Shabbos, so you don't come at all of any thought of milking the cow on Shabbos or Yom Tov. Same thing. Shabbos Yom Tov is the same thing. Yeah. Right. Okay. You can't drink. Right. It's only that Shabbos. The next Shabbos you could. It's only that Shabbos. Right after Shabbos you can drink the milk, but not on Shabbos. Other issues that we have over here is in terms of threshing, which is the Amalach is dosh, which the offshoot is methodic, extracting. So if you want to the description of what we're discussing over here is actually methodic. So milking a cow is methodic. We discussed yesterday squeezing fruits, methodic. And this is what it is. It's methodic, which means extracting. So now you have steel wool, and you have there's dishes that you want to clean on Shabbos, and you want to use steel wool to scrub it. And we know you can't use steel wool. You can't use a sponge, because when you use a sponge, you're squeezing liquid out of the sponge. What about steel wool? Where there's liquid coming out of the steel wool. But steel wool is not the same like a sponge. Steel wool is rabbinic because it doesn't really absorb water inside, it only traps water inside. You get the difference? There's a sponge that absorbs, then the steel is fibrous that are like this. Doesn't absorb, it traps. Yeah, it's a little different. And this that it traps water is a rabbinic prohibition. It's not a biblical prohibition because it doesn't really absorb. It's only rabbinically prohibited. It's still prohibited, but it's rabbinically prohibited. Yeah.
I've seen they're like Shabbos sponges or something where
right. If it's
but...
right. So the question is the Shabbos sponges look like steel wool. So they look like steel wool, but they're more. If you analyze it, I mean that's supposedly that's what it is. It's more spread. It has a similarity to steel wool, right?
Yeah.
But it's more spread out. That's what I understand. So it does not trap any water inside. So that's why we can't use steel wool on Shabbos. And human hair is the same like steel wool. I mean halachically. Okay, halachically it's the same like steel wool. Okay, same idea. Your hair traps water. So let's say the men that go to the mikvah on Shabbos, married women that they need to go to mikvah Friday night. Now, what do they do with their hair? You can't take a towel and go like this, like that, like we usually do. You just scrub your hair back and forth until you dry. You can't do it. You take the towel, just got to put it on your head, and you could move it around. You could move it in different positions. Put it like this, then put it like that, and turn it over because one part gets wet, and the other part that's dry. You keep on, moving around the towel, try to find dry spots, and just put it against your hair like this, like that. You could move around many positions. Put it like this, put it like that, put it like this, put it like this. But you can't like just go like that. Okay? And it works, it helps. So you put it in positions. It takes a little longer, but it does the job not as same way. But you cannot take a towel and just squeeze the water out of your hair. Now, what about showers? Showers, you're not allowed to take showers. Our sages prohibited us to take showers. And the reason is because back in the days, they didn't have private showers. It was public showers, and there was a attendant that took care of the showers, and you would have to heat up the water. And they weren't careful in the halachos of Shabbos. We know when it comes to Shabbos, when it comes to cooking, that you cannot put food on the fire before Shabbos unless the food is cooked up to a certain amount. It has to be half cooked, right? You're familiar with those halachas, the dish has to be cooked halfway. Some say completely. Luckily, if it's cooked halfway, it's okay. If not, then you can't leave it on the fire because there's a concern you might stir the coals those days. So too, those days when the public attendants, they took care of the shower, the bathhouse, they can't make it, so in other words, before the decree, when they took showers on Shabbos, so how did they have hot water? Well, they would cook up water before Shabbos, and they had the fire going. Okay, but they would sometimes put wood into the fire too close to Shabbos. And if it's too close to Shabbos, you're not allowed to put the wood into the fire too close to Shabbos. Just like you can't put food on the fire too close to Shabbos if it's not half cooked, because of concern, you might stir it to get the wood to burn. So they weren't careful in those halachas. Because of that, the Chacham said, you can't take showers on Shabbos. So what about cold showers? Cold showers shouldn't be a problem. So cold showers initially was never prohibited, and it's still not, quote unquote, prohibited, but the custom became, and it's accepted, this custom, that we should not even take cold showers on Shabbos. And the reason is, because what we said before, because you might come to squeeze out the hair. In terms of the concern of squeezing, cold shower is the same issue. After take a cold shower, you might squeeze out your hair. So when you are going to the mikveh, when it's a mitzvah, that's a new story. Because it's not a prohibition to take a cold shower, it's a custom that's accepted that one should keep because of a concern that you might come to squeeze out hair. But when one is doing a mitzvah by going to the mikveh, and it was never prohibited to take a cold shower, then we say, so you're not going to do the mitzvah? Do the mitzvah, but be careful with your head. Just make sure you don't squeeze out your hair with the towel. There's also another reason why there's a custom not to take cold showers, because back in the days, they would many times go to the river and wash themselves there. They come out of the river. The river is a public domain, a rabbinical public domain. Right? It's not enclosed necessarily. So you're walking out of the river and there's water on your body. Now it sounds funny, carrying water. Yeah, if you're coming out of if you have water on your body, when you come out of the pool, it's not just a minuscule amount. It's minuscule, but it's a certain amount. There's water sitting on your body, sort of water. And if you're walking, if it's on Shabbos, you're carrying the water on you. It's not just wet. It's more than wet. There's water, especially here, certain places that carries significant amount of water that is considered carrying. So that's another reason why the custom became that you don't even take cold showers. Yeah.
But if that's another reason, then why wouldn't it be prohibited to say it's raining? The closest to the water, you're trying to take care of it.
Very good question. That's an excellent question. The Alter Rebbe actually speaks about it. The Alter Rebbe says that even though you mean the carrying water on your clothes.
Whatever.
Okay. So the Alter Rebbe speaks about the clothing in terms of squeezing out the water. Okay, so the Alter Rebbe, first let's see what the Alter Rebbe speaks about, and then we'll clarify everything. The Alter Rebbe says like this. There's a concern. A person is not allowed to walk on Shabbos. It's interesting. I didn't bring this. It was on my list. It's going to remind me about it. Yeah, this halacha I'm bringing now is actually connected to this. Why isn't it here? You're not allowed to walk in a place that there's a concern that you might fall into the water. Funny halacha, right? You're not allowed to walk on Shabbos around the swimming pool. That's Shabbos. You can't go swimming. You can't go swimming, right? But if you want to hang around by the pool, you want to stay and walk around the pool. You're not afraid. You're a good swimmer. You're walking at the edge of the pool and you're walking up into the pool, see how clean it is, chlorine, I don't know, whatever you're looking at. There's a concern you might fall. You're not scared. So what if you fall? You're a good swimmer. You're not allowed. Why? Because we're concerned that if you do fall in, what are you going to do? You're going to come out. After you change, you will take your clothes and you'll squeeze out the water. And you're not allowed to squeeze out water from the clothes because it's the malacha of the faret, extracting. But what happens if you did fall into the water? Or it's the strong rain and you're drenched? So are you allowed to walk like that? Do we say change right away because it's concerned you might squeeze out the water? We say, no, you don't have to change right away. You can walk all day with this, and you don't have to be concerned that you'll come to squeeze out the water from it. Okay, so it's actually talking about something different over here. Right. Okay, so let's answer your question. Is if it's pouring rain and you're soaked, so whatever is absorbed in your clothes is not considered carrying because it's part of your clothing. It's absorbed inside the clothing. It shouldn't be an issue. And whatever's on your body, my understanding is because you find in another place where the Chachamim did not make a decree on something that's impossible for people to go by. Now, it brings it regarding, walking in the snow. Walking in the snow, when you're walking in the snow, you are, that topic was going to come up next, actually. You can't squeeze ice. Why can't you squeeze ice? Why can't you crush ice? Not because it's not extracting. Rabbinically, because it looks like you're creating something. It looks like you're creating. And that's why you can't crush ice. Right? So now you can't take snow. You can't take snow on Shabbos. And to press it and to squeeze out the liquid, it's not extracting because it's the same thing. It's one thing. But it looks like you're creating. So you can't crush snow on Shabbos. So what about walking around on Shabbos, walking in the snow? Let's check this. I think this is actually what it's over here. 1 second. Right. So walking on snow on Shabbos, and for sure the snow is going to dissolve. It's going to melt because your boots are already wet and you're pressing against it. You're dissolving. You're not allowed to take snow on Shabbos and press it and squeeze it out. So how are you allowed to, when you step into the snow, you're doing the same thing. Why is that allowed? So the Alter Rebbe says, what is the prohibition anyways? It's a rabbinic prohibition. Our sages don't prohibit something that's impossible or almost impossible for us to adhere to. To tell people, if it's snowing on Shabbos, you can't walk outside. People have to get around. So the Chacham did not prohibit it. So I assume it's the same idea over here. That if it rains and there's water on your body, they're going to tell you can't walk now. You're walking. It could be, and also it's not how much water can you get on your body already. You're dressed. It's coming out of the river. How much water can you get? I assume that and also a person, if you see there's a sufficient amount on your hands, you can always go like that. But usually there isn't so much water. But you bring up an interesting point that theoretically, if that happens, there's a storm, and let's say it's on your hands. Let's say the man walking with short sleeves and the whole hand gets wet, right? So yeah, if there's a sufficient amount of water, it's probably. But again, it could be that if it's pouring, if the water's pouring down, so it's impossible. What should they do? They can't. They're walking like this the whole time. Then that can also be considered that can actually be worse. No, it can't be. No, it could be if you're putting something down from your hands into the public domain, whatever. I think there could be an issue because certain things you can't do while you're walking. If while you're walking, you take the towel and you put it. We're going to other things that I'm not trying to talk about, so I can't give you all the details, but it is halacha that, let's say, a person is walking, and I've seen it once. Person didn't realize it was Shabbos. The man walking, he's going to the mikvah Shabbos morning, and he's holding the towel. And I guess he realized it's Shabbos, or someone told him, so he took the towel and put it around his neck. And I remember something, I have to look it up, but I believe this is an issue, because it's considered like, this is like putting it down. But I have to double check about that. But anyways, we're going into, yeah.
So if the reason why people walking away is because some of them things like clothing anyway.
In terms of the clothing, it's not carrying. In terms of the body, like I believe the reason is because we Chacham don't prohibit something that's impossible. It's a storm. What you do? Not walk, stop, stay in the storm in one place until it stops. It's
right. So my question is, the better than the clothes that absorb, unlike lenses, in which the water stays on top. And what
You have
about
a
the
point.
guys
You have a good-
under the plastic bag?
how much water stays on your coat?
A lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
as you're walking.
Yes, raincoats don't absorb.
I hear you. I hear you. I don't. You have a good point. I have to look into it. But I believe my understanding is, again, I would like to look into it, but my understanding is Chacham did not prohibit something. And I don't know if it's a biblical transgression, the amount of water that's on your coat and it's not intentional and it's so insignificant. I believe it's rabbinic prohibition. And our sages don't prohibit something, don't give prohibitions that is hard for us, that we can't handle. It's like the snow. We're allowed to walk in the snow on Shabbos when you're clearly doing something that otherwise you're not allowed. You're not allowed to take snow on Shabbos and squeeze it. Take ice and crush it. Here you're stepping on the snow and you're causing the snow to dissolve. But they allow you to walk because they're not going to prohibit you from walking on Shabbos. I believe it's along the same lines. Okay, so you can't crush ice on Shabbos, you can't crush snow, you can't use soap on Shabbos, because the same idea, you're causing it to dissolve. It's like you're creating. The reason is because it's similar to malacha. It's like you're doing work on Shabbos because it's like you're creating something. You're taking ice and you're turning it into water. You're creating something. Now, of course, you're not creating. It was there before. It's not yesh me'ayin. It's not a creation. But it's like you're creating because you're changing it from one thing to something else. So the Chacham prohibited it. Soap is a bar of soap, same thing. You bar of soap, it's solid and you're causing it to dissolve. So that's the same reason. Salt is the same issue. You take salt, let's say, you have been growing up as a kid on Pesach, you didn't use any soap. My mother would clean dishes, maybe now also have to ask her, I think she clean with soap. Be careful not to use any product. I'm not saying you have to keep all these agencies. I'm saying use soap. And use salt. The thick salt, because salt removes grease. That's what salt does. Salt is powerful. They use it to pull out blood when they kasha chickens or meat. So it removes grease. So if you go on Shabbos and you want to wash your hands with salt, no, because you're causing the salt to dissolve. Putting it under the water, and it's the same thing. Just like you can't crush ice, you can't press snow, you can't do that with salt too. Now, being that the reason is because it appears like you're doing a malacha, so therefore, if it doesn't appear this way, you're allowed. What do you mean if it doesn't appear this way? Well, you take ice cubes out of the freezer and you put it into water, and the ice is going to dissolve into the water. You are causing it to dissolve. Yes, you took it out of the freezer and you put it into your cup of soda. It's going to dissolve. You're causing it to dissolve, but it's dissolving inside the water, so it's not noticeable. That's why it's not noticeable. If you do something that's not noticeable, it's okay, because the reason why it's prohibited is because of the way it appears. It's the impression that it gives. So if it doesn't have that impression like you're creating because it's not visible, you don't see it dissolving, it's dissolving inside the water, then there's no issue. Now the question is, now there is a machlokes if you're allowed to stick your hand into the water and crush it while it's inside the water. one should be strict. Some say it's okay, some it's not okay. So you should be strict. Don't stick your hand inside the soda and crush the ice inside. Okay, try to refrain, as difficult as it is, try to refrain from that, please. Okay. Now, could you take ice cubes out of the freezer and put it on the table? Why are you taking the ice cubes out of the freezer? People need ice cubes. Put into the soda. Now, can I take ice cubes out of the freezer and put it on the? I want the ice cubes to dissolve because I'm there isn't any water. The pipes, something happened to the pipes, and there's no water anymore. I need water. Let me get water out of. Oh, there's ice cubes. We'll take the ice cubes out of the freezer, leave it out. It's going to dissolve. Okay, I'm not talking about when it's a desperate situation. I'm talking about a regular situation. Well, just discussing the halacha itself. Right? Not personally doesn't have any water to drink. We're not discussing it. Taking out the ice cubes, you put it on the table because we need water. So I putting it out of the freezer so it should dissolve. Are you allowed to do that? No? Anyone? You take from a cold place, putting it in a warm place so it should dissolve. Is that okay? What?
But you're not like extracting, you're not making, it's not.
You're not crushing it with your hands. You're just putting it.
It's not either.
It's almost like saying you're not killing the person. You're just okay. But halachically, it's the same idea. You are taking the ice, putting it into a warm place with the intention that it should dissolve. So that's not allowed. Okay, let me just finish one more point because your question might be answered. That is, if that's your intention, you're taking it out, it should dissolve. But if you're taking it out of the freezer, not to dissolve, the regular, lighting out of the freezer, the ice cubes, not because you want it to dissolve, you actually don't want it to dissolve now, you want it to stay ice cubes. That's not clearly proven. That is a matter of discussion. Some say should be strict. Halachically, it seems to be accepted that it's not an issue, but then because the intention is not it should dissolve. But then those that are careful when they take the ice cubes out of the freezer to put on the table, they will put it inside water. You put it into water, and for sure there's no problem. Yeah, good question.
Yeah.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, half time. So if you put it in a couple of ice so that everyone can take at the Shabbos table, and then if not everyone takes, and then there's like water in the bottom, and you put the water.
You put the ice cubes into water, right?
No, just in the bowl.
Oh. Okay. Good question. You're putting the ice cubes. Now the ice cubes dissolving. Could you drink that water that dissolved? There's actually an argument about it. Halachically, it comes out. Actually, let me remind myself. 1 second. Let's see. L'chatchila, you should be strict. L'chatchila, one should not drink it. It dissolved by itself. I want to double check again about it, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. But l'chatchila should be strict. But if one really needs it, it could be lenient. It's necessary. It's necessary because I believe that's what it is. That's l'chatchila should be strict, not to drink that water. Only thing is, the ice cubes is after there's water. After the water dissolves, then the ice cube is sitting in the water. Let's say the ice cube is starting to melt, right? Now the ice cube is inside water. Now the ice cube melts, it's melted into the water. And they have mixed together. I have to double check about it. I believe the chatchila, if the whole ice cube just melts and I'm going to drink the water, I believe you should drink it. The chatchila, if someone does it, there's definitely what to rely. In other words, it's not like prohibited, like it's more of like the proper thing is not to. That would be more proper. Yeah. If what? Yeah, if you're putting it into water, there's no problem.
A small amount and then put the bones.
Correct. Yeah, yeah. Right. In other words, good point. I don't think the ice cubes have to be submerged into the water. I don't think so. Actually, I'm not sure. As I'm saying it, maybe it does because the ice cube melts from the top also. Ice cube only melts from the bottom. The whole ice cube is melting. No, I think the whole ice cube has to be into. You get what I'm saying? Ice cube melts from all over. That you don't tell the ice cube when you start melt from the bottom. Ice cube doesn't listen to you. The ice cube melts from everywhere because it comes down, so you don't really see it. My understanding is that it should be submerged into water. I think so. I have to check. Something, all the details, I don't always think about every single detail, but exactly, Yeah.
When I see that there was ice out, maybe some water, so I put it into my soda. I finished the soda, there's ice. But there's ice that was originally in the liquid. But now there's just ice left. If that ice melts, can I drink that? Is that the same as the other stuff?
It's not like over here. It would seem that it's better not to. Even though, even according to the opinion, it says, even according to the opinions, they didn't do anything wrong. But the fact is, it melted on Shabbos. It melted. It's something that was not there before, and there's all discussion. It seems that according to one opinion, you shouldn't. Yeah. Toothbrush. A toothbrush is the same like steel wool and hair. Same idea, logically. Traps water. So that's why we don't use a toothbrush on Shabbos. You don't brush our teeth because put the toothbrush under the faucet, gets wet, and you go like that, and then when you brush your teeth, you are squeezing water out of the toothbrush. That is the problem with using a toothbrush on Shabbos. The other problem is the toothpaste. It's another malacha we can discuss another time. You're spreading out smoothing out the toothpaste. But if you're not using toothpaste, that's the one issue you have with you when you brush your teeth, because you're squeezing the water out of the bristles. Let's finish. Now, what you could do is, I'm not saying it's something that's going to be excited about and going to find something that you want to do, but I'm saying, ironically, what you could do is you rinse your mouth, you spit out the water, then you take the dry toothbrush and you brush your teeth with a dry toothbrush. But your teeth are wet now, so you have moisture. So that's something you can do, but that's if you don't bleed. If you usually bleed when you brush your teeth, then you can't. And by the way, if you usually bleed when you brush your teeth, you should make sure you speak to your dentist. Find out why it's happening. It shouldn't be bleeding. But if you don't bleed, then you could brush this way. And also, you can also even floss your teeth on Shabbos if you make sure to cut the floss before Shabbos. Cut the floss before Shabbos, and you can floss again if you don't bleed. If you usually bleed, you can't. But if you don't bleed and you cut the floss before Shabbos, so you can use floss, then you can rinse your mouth, you can rinse if you then use mouthwash or rinse everything out, and it's definitely much better than not brushing your teeth. Yes.
If you use mouthwash, you put your mouth with mouthwash, and you brush your teeth with the mouthwash in your mouth, is that allowed?
I don't think it's allowed because it's the same. Why should it be allowed? The reason why you don't brush your teeth because the toothbrush gets absorbed with water, and then when you're pressing against your teeth, you are squeezing water out of the
mouthwash, so it's like ice melting into water.
If your mouth is full of mouthwash, that means the toothbrush is also full of mouthwash. No?
Right, but if you're squeezing.
And then when you're pressing.
And then you press it, but it's like squeezing the water into the mouthwash, into the mouthwash, so it's not.
So it's like crushing ice while it's under the water. Yeah. Which we said something saying shouldn't do it anyways. So maybe it's equivalent to crushing ice inside water, because you are. I don't know if that's exactly like that. It could, you have to think about that, maybe even not, maybe it's even worse than that, because in any case, the chatfil, you're not supposed to crush ice inside water. So you use mouthwash, you spit it out, then use the toothbrush. That's what should be done. Again, make sure that if you don't usually bleed, if you usually bleed, then you shouldn't be doing it. You should and take and figure out why you bleed. That's important. Shouldn't be bleeding. Many times it's because people don't brush properly. That's why they bleed. You know, brush properly, usually don't bleed. They brush and they still bleed. Then you have to find out why it's happening. Any other questions?
In the Shabbos toothbrush and mouth.
If it's a Shabbos toothbrush and has a hechsher, then there's no issue. I'm discussing a regular Shabbos toothbrush is designed that the bristles are spread apart and the toothpaste has no whatever density. It's like loose. Some people say that it doesn't do anything, but that's why it's good to use. That's why it's okay to use on Shabbos, because it's made in such a way that it's it's so its capacity is so diluted that it's okay. So if it's a Shabbos toothbrush, it has a hechsher, it's authorized, that the other gives a hechsher, then it's okay to use. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. We will stop here. Chodesh anyone, and continue Mitzvah Hashem on not Monday, Tuesday. I'm good. No, not Tuesday, Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday. I've been no